Welcome everyone, Costin here on Serious Gaming with another video about the campaign planning for Total War Rome 2. Rome, the eternal city, the beacon of hope for all civilization in the ancient world, as well as the largest military power in the ancient world.
And remember this above all, our Roman gods are watching. Make sure they are not machines!
It may not have the toughest individual infantry units or the best cavalry or the best range units. In fact, its range units are probably very lacking. I mean, yes, you have skirmishers, but you don't have really good archers as Rome. You do have very good heavy infantry, and most importantly, as Rome, you have flexibility in your units because of the maniple style of fighting, the manipular formation. That's what allowed Rome to actually become the empire it did in the ancient world. It's the flexibility of its fighting force, which only became greater actually after the Marian reforms. Like he did away with the maniple formation fighting and created the cohort system, which actually improved the flexibility of the legions. Anyway, as Rome, you start to Roma, obviously. You have Neapolis in the Italia province to the south, which has olive oil production as well as Mount Vesuvius as a wonder. I'm not sure what kind of bonus you can expect from a fucking volcano, but hey, you have that. Then you have Concetia and Brundisium in the Magna Graecia province. You'll very likely start with two armies next to Rome, and you're at war with the Etruscans to the north, who control the Velafri and Ariminum settlements. The Velafri settlement has wine production. Take that out first, move your armies, rush the Etruscans. You should be able to deal with them fairly easily. You know, if they start off with more units than you, the only way I'd see them surviving a rush tactic would be if they had more units than you do, which might be a possibility, but you do have more provinces. That means more income. That means you can survive longer against them. Anyway, once you've dealt with the Etruscans, I would personally recommend you do three things. One, take the Cisalpania province. That's where you should focus most of your troops. Then send one army. You will have a limit of 3 armies by this point. That's the starting limit. That might increase if you take the Etruscan territory. I wouldn't expect it to. Anyway, send 2 armies in Cisalpania, take it out, then send 1 army if you can afford to take Alela and the Corsica Sardinia province and Syracuse, and then reinforce it a bit, and then send it to take Syracuse. Syracuse, you know, it's kind of disappointing that it's just a regular settlement. Syracuse was a major city of the ancient world, which is actually why it was able to stay independent for quite a long time against even the Romans. I think their independence ended after the Second Punic War, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the Cisalpania province doesn't really have much in the way of resources. It does have glassware production in the Patavium region. It's divided into 3 regions controlled by 3 different tribes. And they're not allied with one another or anyone else, so it should be fairly easy to deal with them, unless they ally someone else, in which case you're going to have a few problems on your hands. Once you have Cisalpania as well as the Alela and Syracuse settlements, you have options. You can go to war against Carthage, which might not be the best idea, but you can do that if you want to control over the Corsica Sardinia province and the Magna Graecia province to be able to issue edicts in these provinces. And then you can take the war to Carthage itself, which would be rather difficult, not because I think Carthage would be so well defended, but rather because you have to deal with Nova Carthago and their other client state, the Libue, which would cause you problems because these factions start, well, Nova Carthago starts with 4 territories, the Libue start off with 3. They're pretty powerful. So you can go to war against Carthage if you so desire. It might work out if you are a really good tactician. I have some doubts it would work out very well on the hardest difficulty. Even if you manage to take Carthage, you might end up in a situation where some factions in Gaul or Germany declare war against you, and you might end up overextending your armies. what I do personally would be to take the Illyria province and the Provincia province at the same time. Once I have these two under my control, I have a good amount of territory from which I can build armies. I also would get marble production from the Illyria province, as well as more olive oil production from the Provincia province. And then I'd be in a good position to take the war against the Helveti, Raetia, and Raeti and Nori tribes. The reason I do so is because the Romans have bonus from metalwork, and the Raetia and Noricum province has iron production, and specifically the Coria settlement. The Coria settlement is controlled by the Raeti, who are allied with the Nori and Helveti. So if you go to war against the Raeti, you're gonna have to deal with all of them. But yeah, that would be my go-to plan. Take Provincia, take Illyria, then take the Raetia and Noricum province. Unless some other faction declares war on me. Which very likely will happen at this point. I'm pretty sure the Gauls will not be very happy with you moving into their territory. So say for instance the Verni might declare war on you, or Diodui, or both of them, maybe the Vivisci. Rome was not well liked by the Gauls, and if this game is in any way historically accurate, they will likely declare war on you at one point or another. You're gonna have to deal with the Gauls, and the Gauls are quite a fearsome foe to deal with. There's a lot of them, pure and simple. Anyway, if you do manage to take the Raetia and Noricum province, then you've got control over a very good central position. And then you can declare war on Carthage to take Corsica, Sardinia, and Lillibam, because you will have a lot of territory to give you a lot of income to supply your armies that you'll need to take out Carthage. And if you so desire, you might be able to even invade northern Spain, maybe if you strike an alliance with the Vivisci, Sessitani, and Cantabari, especially the Sessitani, because if you manage to gain access through their territory, you'll be able to move against the Carthagenesis province where Carthagest is. So personally, I'd move a fleet against Carthage itself with the main force of my army, but I'll also move one stack or maybe two stacks in the Iberian Peninsula to take Carthagest, as well as Gadira, Tingis, Yol, as well as Ebosim, controlled by the Nova Carthago faction. If you take out Carthage, well, you pretty much you'll be in a good position to control Central and Western Europe. And then you can do whatever the hell you want. You might go to war against all four Greek factions. Personally, I think if you invade Greece, you might be able to take out Epirus without pissing anyone off. Sparta doesn't like Epirus. Macedon likely won't like Epirus because they're allied with Sparta. And Athens is a client state of Macedon, so it stands to reason that, if you take out Epirus, you likely won't piss these factions off too much. But if you go to war against either Macedon, Sparta, or Athens, you're likely going to end up in a freeway war with all of them. And these are not factions that will be very easy to deal with. Let's just say Macedon was a huge thorn in Rome's side until Philip V was defeated by Rome. Sparta and Athens did historically ally Rome during the Second Punic War, but this game is set even before the First Punic War. Because at the beginning of the Second Punic War, Carthage had lost Carlis and Lillibam, but they had gained control over a good amount of territory in the Iberian Peninsula to make up for that. In fact, the Second Punic War started when Hannibal took a settlement called Saguntum, which is actually mentioned in the most recent trailer from Creative Assembly on Total War Rome 2. And that battle for Saguntum, the siege of Saguntum, which was a costly siege for Hannibal, sparked the Second Punic War. Oh, just before I wrap things up here, I would like to point out that all of those tactics that are mentioned in that Find a Way trailer from Creative Assembly are actually strategies that the Carthaginians employed. Hannibal did march his army over the Alps with elephants, and he did get elephants in Italy. They died shortly after, but he did get them in Italy, and he did fight with them on his side at the Battle of Trebia, though he had lost them by the Battle of Lake Trasimene. But beyond Hannibal moving a good chunk of his army into Italy via the Alps through Gaul. He also had his brother, Hasdrubal, moving towards Massalia and fighting the Romans for around that area. He did not win against the Romans, but they did fight over Massalia. Also, Syracuse did revolt against Rome, though that didn't go so well for the Carthaginians. And Macedon did actually ally itself with Carthage against Rome during the Second Punic War. After the Battle of Cannae, the Macedonians were persuaded by the Carthaginians to join the war effort. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Costin here, signing off. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for more.